Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what part of the day you're watching this episode of Data Driven Formula One. My name is Patrick Henz, and I have the pleasure to welcome you about this episode where we discuss the 1992 season. I know we said this many times in the past. This is a very special year for Formula One, but again, it we applies many times, and I think also for 1992. And we will come to this why we go through the year, and of course why we speak about the legacy of this years. So again, welcome to this new episode, and let's start 1992. Besides Formula One, what was important in the world? We had the European Union formation. The Maastricht Treaty was signed, officially establishing the European Union and introducing the concept of a single European currency, the euro, what will be introduced later. End of the Cold War aftermath, the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 91 continued to reshape global politics, unfortunately up to today, with former Soviet republics gaining independence and still then taking care that they stay independent. Also, the Los Angeles riots sparkled by acquittal of police officers in the Rodney King trial. The riots highlighted racial tensions and police brutality in the US. Also, unfortunately, a topic which we will see until today. From a technical point, we had the first SMS text message. The first text message was sent over a mobile network, revolutionizing communication. Interesting fun fact, SMS text messaging was never thought to be marketed as a special possibility for the mobile users. It's something like a byproduct from the development of mobile phones, so it was still there. That's why the manufacturers included it into the mobile phone, but I think it was never thought back in 92 that this was really become something important. And maybe today text messaging is more important than the voice application. So that was important that year. But what about Formula One, the season in a nutshell? We see a lot of technical development, active suspension, and this especially in the Williams FW14B, which use computer controlled suspension to optimize aerodynamics and tire grip, setting a new standard where all others had to follow. Traction control, electronic aids help drivers manage power delivery, improving lap times, and the semi-automatic gearbox, pedal shift gearboxes became more refined, allowing for quicker gear changes, something which we see today in a lot of the street cars too. So something which came from motorsports, especially Formula One. And the Williams was really the car which featured all of this, while the others had been one or two steps behind, maybe nearest McLaren. But then we had Benetton, who was quite good on the technical development, while the motor was still lacking a little bit horsepower. The Ford engine, and Ferrari struggling also with the technical applications which you see here mentioned. So Williams was the car to beat. Interesting also, this was the last year where we had a female driver with Giovanni Amati for Benetton. Nevertheless, the car was not competitive and she never could qualify. So officially, she was part of Formula One, but mostly only in the pre-qualifying. And after the third race, she was replaced by the later champion Damon Hill, who also could not qualify at once, but a little bit later in the season. Giovanni Amati, besides being the last female driver, very interesting biography. For example, she comes from a wealthy background, a family, and due to this, unfortunately, she had the experience being kidnapped, which also was discussed in media, as I remember, as she was accused being also fallen victim of the Stockholm syndrome, which she always declined. So quite interesting biography she had, but unfortunately, at least in Formula One, she wasn't able to qualify, which is a pity, as really it could have helped female drivers joining Formula One if she would have done. But anyway, that's the way it is. Also, a little bit technical. What have been the video games related to Formula One? We had the Ayrton Senna Super Monaco GP2, published by Japanese company Sega. We discussed it especially in the episode Being Ayrton Senna, that he had a very close relation to Japan since '87, where he was teamed up with a Japanese driver for the Lotus Honda, where he bonded with the Honda CEO. And I think Sega and Senna is a very fascinating topic, so stuff for a special episode. Look out for it. So you see the graphics, still it's an arcade game, it's not a simulation, it's not an official FIA product, but yes, it's an official Ayrton Senna product. And you see here already the cockpit view, as you would see later also in the F1 games, which are a little bit more simulation. Okay, let's start really with the season, starting South Africa, Kyalami. Nigel Mansell, first position, followed by Riccardo Patrese in the second of the Williams-Renault. Nigel Mansell, the number one driver. And then for reigning champion Ayrton Senna with the McLaren-Honda. From there to Mexico City, same picture, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, and then Michael Schumacher with the Benetton on the third position. 92, the Mexican Grand Prix track was in decline, maybe also of losing interest of Mexican fans, no Mexican drivers, and that's why it was the last race in Mexico until 2015. From there, going south, Interlagos, Brazil, same picture, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, Michael Schumacher. And as already mentioned, last race for race weekend, better said, for Joanna Amati, as she would get replaced by Damon Hill. Conclusions from the first races, I think we don't have to use artificial intelligence to identify some patterns. You see, 3 races, 3 times, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese. So we can conclude Williams, yes, it's the strongest car, and Nigel Mansell, maybe the stronger driver in this combination. There's no more dominance by Ayrton Senna and McLaren, but we see a new name, Michael Schumacher, and so it's not anymore just a duel like Senna Prost or Senna Mansell. We have now a third person in the game with Michael Schumacher. Yes, the Benetton is still a little bit behind McLaren and Williams, but thanks to Schumacher's talent, he is somebody who can be on the podium. From there to Spain, where we had the Grand Prix of the Olympic Games, because the Olympic Games had been Barcelona 92. So for promotion, this time it was the Grand Prix of the Olympic Games, the Spanish one in Barcelona. Nevertheless, not much new. Nigel Mansell and Michael Schumacher already on the second position, and a good third place for Jean Alesi and Ferrari. Also Ferrari not competitive in 92. First race weekend for Damon Hill, who not qualified, so he was in the qualifying but not made it into the race at the end. From there, we stay on the European continent, the Imola Grand Prix for San Marino. Also here, another victory for Nigel Mansell. Riccardo Patrese and Ayrton Senna back on the podium. Monaco, Monte Carlo, as often said, this small city track favors a little bit more the skills of the drivers than being dependent on the skills of the car. And maybe that's favored Ayrton Senna, which from my point was the strongest driver also in 92 before Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese. So also for Sega, of course, a good marketing for the 92 game, Ayrton Senna's Monaco Grand Prix 2, a victory of especially this Ayrton Senna in Monaco. From then back to the North American continent, Montreux victory for Gerhard Berger, Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, Benetton, and Jean Alesi is the second Ferrari, so quite good result for the Reds. Then back to France, Magny-Cours, and again it's Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, and Ayrton Senna. UK Silverstone victory, home Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, and another British driver, first Martin Brundle. And now, first time Damon Hill could qualify with Brabham, so the first start now for the later world champion Damon Hill. As you could imagine, Mansell was the favorite for the championship since the first race, together with the British Williams teams. And this caused, of course, a big Mansell mania. Mansell always a favorite of the British fans, but seeing finally Mansell on the way winning the champion, of course, started the British Mansell mania, as you see here from the photo, which was directly after the British Grand Prix. From UK to Germany, Hockenheim, again, Nigel Mansell continuing his series. Ayrton Senna, at least, second place, and third place at the home Grand Prix for Michael Schumacher. Here, Mansell tied Senna's record for most wins in a season, in fact, 8. And we can imagine we will still put some victories on top of this. Not in the next race, which have been in Budapest. Here, another victory for Ayrton Senna. Budapest is a little bit similar to Monaco, so also it's a driver's circuit. And for the second time, 92, on a driver's circuit, Senna winning before Mansell. You can make your own conclusions based on this. Second place, Gerhard Berger with Ferrari. Nevertheless, Mansell secured the championship, and this is the record for the earliest decision of a driver's championship. And last race for the Brabham team as they ran out of money. Also, the last points for Ivan Capelli as sixth place with Leighton-House. Besides this, we had Ferrari's 500th Formula One start. Ferrari marked its 500th start as a team in a World Championship event, despite not competing in the 1950 French Grand Prix, the very first Grand Prix, where Peter Whitehead's private entry did not contribute to the team's official count. While its 500th official entry technically occurred at the Belgium Grand Prix, Ferrari chose to celebrate the milestone in Hungary as it included Alberto Ascari's participation in the 1952 Indy 500, which is technically correct because the Indy 500 had been part of the official Formula One agenda in the early 50s, so it's quite correct Ferrari's calculation here. Then Spa-Francorchamps, victory for Michael Schumacher, and I remember that often he declared that Spa-Francorchamps is his favorite race. I mean, also this is a driver's track. Besides this, it's the nearest, let me think, difficult. Yes, I think it's the nearest racetrack from his hometown. Mm, a little bit nearer maybe than the Nürburgring, which was anyway not in the agenda anymore. So this was typically Schumacher's home race and not Hockenheim more in the south of the country. Second position, Nigel Mansell, and third, Riccardo Patrese. First victory, Michael Schumacher, and the last race for Andrea Moda, the famous Italian racing team. Yeah, no surprise, this must be stuff for a special episode, so look out for that too. From there, Monza, the Temple of Speed, victory, Ayrton Senna, Martin Brundle, Michael Schumacher. Nigel Mansell announced his retirement. Why? Because it was quite clear at that point that Alain Prost would join Williams in 93. And as Nigel Mansell didn't have the best experience having Alain Prost as a team colleague, he decided better to retire, and as he announced. Retired Formula One for the moment, not motorsports. Last victory for the combination Senna-Honda. Next year, he stayed at McLaren, but McLaren-Ford. From there, Portugal, Estoril, victory, Nigel Mansell, Gerhard Berger, Ayrton Senna. Japan, Suzuka, victory, Riccardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger, Martin Brundle, and Nicola Larini replaced Ivan Capelli at Ferrari. If you want to know the details, check out our special episode to be published soon about Nicola Larini. But in short, the results by Ivan Capelli had not been very good. And by the way, I said Gerhard Berger and Ferrari. No, of course, Gerhard Berger is McLaren-Honda still in 92. So sorry for that. Ivan Capelli was the second Ferrari driver. Again, quite disappointing results. And also the second reason for the change, Larini as a test driver was testing the whole year the new active suspension and wanted to test it the last two races under race conditions. And for these two reasons, Larini replaced Capelli at Ferrari. And with this, Australia Adelaide to finish victory for Gerhard Berger, McLaren, Michael Schumacher, and Martin Brundle. And last race for the March team. 1990s had been difficult regarding the world economy, and this is why we see the dropout of various small teams, even well, on the one hand, the small Italian teams like Andrea Moda, but also bigger names as Brabham, as March. This based on the problematic financial situation around the planet. So that's all for 92. Speaking about legacy, okay, more later, but already now, Ayrton Senna, I remember quite good. He, of course, perfectly identified that the Williams was the best car. I remember, I don't know if it was already in 92 or in 93, but several times he said that he would drive for Williams even without salary, just because he wanted to win championship. Nevertheless, Alain Prost would join Williams, and there was, I don't know if it was just a rumor or fact, but it was said that his contract included that it was not allowed for Williams to have Ayrton Senna as the other driver, and that's why Senna didn't had the opportunity to go to Williams, and due to this would stay with McLaren and then driving next year the McLaren Ford. But with this, back to technology. Constructors' Championship, Williams-Renault dominated with 164 points, followed by McLaren-Honda 99, Benetton-Ford 91, and Ferrari disappointing 22 points. Lotus-Ford 13 points, Tyrrell-Ilmor 8 points. Footwork, Mugen Honda, the non-official Honda engine, this like the second team, 6 points. Ligier Renault, the second Renault team, 6 points. So here you see it was not only the Renault engine clearly, but also the really dominating technology by the Williams chassis. BMS, Dallara, Ferrari, 2 points. Jordan Yamaha, 1 point. Very bad year for the Jordan team. Minardi Lamborghini, at least 1 point. Venturi French team, also powered with Lamborghini, 1 point. And 0 points. Font Metal Ford, Brabham Judd, and Andrea Moda Judd. Here, an image of the Williams FW14B, FW Frank Williams, the 14th of his cars. Classical design, classic livery, looks fast, and it was fast. McLaren MP4 7A still looking like the year before, but also, I mean, if you saw our episode, we already mentioned it. Yes, McLaren-Honda in 91 was still the leading team, the leading combination, but Williams was coming close very fast, and it didn't came by surprise that they would be the new leading combination in Formula One, even though, of course, the McLaren-Honda still looks a beautiful design, and for me, this is the classic McLaren livery, not the orange, but maybe because it was the time when I started to get interested in Formula One. Brabham BT60, yeah, sorry to say, but quite strange combination of color. I mean, even though it looks like all cars in the 90s, but I mean, you see lack of big sponsors, strange combination of colors, quite obvious that this is a team which had been struggling with its budget. Footwork FA13 here on the racetrack, Japanese team, Japanese sponsor, and again with Footwork Mugen Honda with the Honda engine. So it's no surprise. Also have the typical Japanese livery, white and red. Practically an all Japanese team. Front Metal, one of the small teams which we had various years around, and for me always important to have these teams, because here the young drivers could enter, something which from my point of view unfortunately we lost as Formula One became more professional. So we have the teams practically having their junior teams, and that's why there's no place for this sympathetic little teams anymore. But 90s still we had the Andrea Modas, Minardis, Fun Metals. Benetton B192, another step closer to the leading teams with the car, and of course with Michael Schumacher, also a high talented driver. So this was another year where the Benetton team rose closer to the top. Dallara F192. It looked like a small Ferrari. Yes, it had a Ferrari engine, but besides this, no direct combination between the Scuderia Ferrari and the Scuderia Italia, using chassis developed by Dallara. Ligier GS33, This is the all French team with typical blue engine, Renault engine, Gitane cigarettes, like in the good old 1970s, you might say. Only the results hadn't been there as before, but nice to see, nice to have these blue colors in Formula One. Ferrari F92A, yep, looks good, but as I've mentioned at the beginning, it wasn't competitive that year. Jean Alesi also quite alone, as Ivan Capelli never had been close to Alesi's level. Venturi LC92, quite a small team with a lot of smaller sponsors. So nice to have them, but of course not competitive, battling for points. And here it is, the Andrea Moda C4B. Please look out for our special episode about this team. I promise you, you will like it. From the machines to the people to the drivers, Nigel Mansell, in the age of 39, won the championship. Number two, Riccardo Patrese as the second driver. Patrese, somebody who was always fast, never had been on the same level as Senna, Schumacher, Mansell, but one of the fast, steady drivers, and due to this, he would stay around for a couple of years more. Then we see on the right Michael Schumacher, as you see, more than 15 years difference to Nigel Mansell. So here we have the next generation of drivers. I mean, we already have Mika Häkkinen, we also have now Damon Hill, but Michael Schumacher, the first one who really had been here to fight for the title. Still in the black design. This is a photo from 91 where he still drove the Mercedes in the sports prototype championship before entering Formula One with Jordan, then switching to Benetton. Ayrton Senna with McLaren on the fourth position, then Gerhard Berger with the second of the McLaren, and Martin Brundle, the second driver of Benetton. So you see the first six places, the drivers from the three top teams, Williams, McLaren, and newly Benetton. Unfortunately, Ferrari not there anymore. Best place, Jean Alesi on the seventh. And you see a little bit older than Michael Schumacher. And interesting, both had been quite good friends over all the time. But Alesi, of course, quite younger than Patrese or Williams. Another of the young drivers, Mika Häkkinen, then by Lotus. And we still have Andrea De Cesaris, good results with the Tyrrell. Legacies. I mean, we discussed it a little bit already. It was now really the official end for McLaren, of the McLaren-Honda dominance. Practically logically for Honda to leave in the next year, not only because they not have been dominant anymore. I mean, they could have stayed, tried to get back to the number one position, but Honda, even though if it's the Japanese dream company, they always acted logically, meaning their priority had been the production of their cars, and the priority had been to keep their employees and not to set them free due to the problematic financial situation. And so priority here again with the Honda employees, and due to this, Honda would leave now Formula One. similar as had happened later with Honda and Red Bull Racing. So, end of McLaren-Honda, the dominance, but also the time of the old duels, Senna, Prost, Senna, Mansell. We have with Michael Schumacher a new contender. So it's maybe we now have three people driving for the championship. And again, we see the rise of the next generation, including Häkkinen and Damon Hill. Okay, folks, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the insights into the 1992 season. If you have any points which we not spoke about or something from where you have a different point of view, you're always free to comment under our video, independent if it's on YouTube, YouTube Music, or also on Spotify. Please comment if you have anything to add, any question, or also have a different point of view. Also, of course, if you have any suggestion for a special episode, we are always open to listen for your ideas here. And with this, I hope you enjoyed. If yes, give us a like and follow us to get updates when our next episode will be dropped. And that's all, and see you next time. Bye bye.